Hi, what's going on? It's Clever Zodiambo here, and today I'm going to be talking about how to price your work. Thanks mostly to a question I got on Instagram by Steven Juguna, who said, I've just done my first ever painting on canvas acrylic on A1 and I don't know how to price it. Please consider doing a video about value or worth or pricing and how to approach selling the pieces, whether online or at exhibitions, and how to make them happen, and taxation as well. Now there's a bunch of questions in there, but the main one seems to be how to price, which is the one I'm going to be tackling in this video. Now, how I personally began pricing my work was so amateurish I wouldn't advise anyone to go about it this way. But back in 2010, which is when I started drawing and painting, I didn't know you could make any money from it. So I was just doing it because I enjoyed seeing the growth painting by painting, and also by taking on different challenges to just try and draw more and more difficult subjects. And one time I made a drawing of a teacher, then presented it to him, and he offered me 50 Kenya shillings. And I was really happy because I didn't expect to make anything. I just expected a part on the back, but I got 50 shillings out of nowhere. Then the next time I made a drawing of the school principal and I got 200 Kenya shillings. But these two drawings were not any different. I just sold them to different people and got vastly different sums of money from it. And since I didn't have a strategy, I just accepted whatever people offered me for my drawings. It was encouraging for a 14 or 15-year-old, but it wasn't the best way to go about pricing. So how do you go about pricing your work? Now there's actually a basic strategy on how to price your work. There's a formula for this, and even though it doesn't exhaust all the factors you should consider when pricing your work, it's a good starting point. So what you can do is you could set an acceptable hourly rate that you want to pay yourself, and it doesn't have to be arbitrary. So for example, I went to the US Bureau of Labor Statistics website just to see what they have over there. There's an hourly rate for artists, and just as an example of how much it can vary, you see that an artist in, say, Sandy Spring, Atlanta can make $22 per hour, while one in Long Beach, LA makes $42, almost double what the other artist is making, even though they may be making completely similar artworks. So one factor you can consider when deciding how much you're paying yourself per hour is if your country has such a clear division of income rates for different occupations, you could use that as a starting point. You don't have to stick to it. Then you'll multiply how much you're making by however many hours it took you to make an artwork, then add the cost of materials used, or the cost of shipping if necessary, or the cost of framing the artwork. Then right there you'll have an arbitrary value for how much you're going to price your work. Now obviously not all artworks are created equal, and there are different factors that can make sometimes even similar artworks have different prices, and we'll get into some of them in this video. Other things that can make the prices of artworks vary are size, style, or medium. So under size, if a painting is bigger, it's going to be worth more than a smaller painting, even if they look completely identical. And under style, if you're an artist who does different styles of work, so if you make drawings and paintings, or if you make paintings and mosaics, or if you make sculptures and drawings, you can decide how to price them based on different styles. Then under medium, if you're a sculptor for instance, and some of your sculptures you make using wood and others you make using bronze, obviously the ones made in bronze will cost more because the medium or the material that you use cost you more to procure. One thing that can help you to sell your work, especially if you're less established or if you're just trying to gain experience or trying to gain a foothold in a new market, is to start low. Don't start pricing your artworks high. And also you have to remember that as long as you're still in the game, and as long as you keep improving your work day by day, year by year, the value of your work is going to improve with the more people that see your work. So as long as it's not hurting you, it's always okay to start pricing your work low. How low you're going to price them doesn't have to be as low as I priced my drawings back in 2010. Something that can help you when you're starting out, and this is going to be my fourth point, is looking at how other artists with similar experience or accomplishments or production rates to you are pricing their own works. Even if their artworks are not exactly similar to yours, but you have other similar attributes, like maybe you've both been creating or exhibiting for the same amount of time, or you both based in the same geographical location, or you exhibit in the same circuits, then chances are the same clients who will show up to buy their work in exhibitions will run across yours as well. And you don't want there to be a completely lopsided disparity between how most artists in a certain location or at a certain level of expertise price their work and how you price your work. So you don't want to go extremely high that you stand out in that way, or ridiculously low that you look out of place. Just try to get an idea of how other people around you price their work, and that will help you. And one way to do this is to just attend exhibitions, just to visit them every once in a while and see what's going on with other artists. Look at the artworks, consider why they might be priced a certain way. Is it because of the size? Is it because of the name of the artist? Is it because of the materials they used or the subject matter? and all these things will help you to get an idea of where you might lie as an artist. What you have to remember, even when comparing yourself to the other artists, is that the whole point of pricing your work is just to try and sell it. The dollar value you place on your work doesn't describe how good you are as an artist. It's all about just trying to sell it. Your work could be worth millions of dollars in your head or in the heads of the people around you, but if you stuck with the work in your studio because nobody can afford it, it doesn't help you with anything. So the whole point of pricing an artwork is to try and sell it. So don't ever think just because someone else's artworks are selling for higher prices than yours that they're a better artist than you. It's all about just trying to sell. Another point when it comes to comparing yourself with other artists is that you have to remember that the people who buy or the people who consume art, they also compare different artworks. So just like if you walk into a boutique, you will compare different clothes before you decide what to buy. And if the people who buy our work do this, then I think it's important that we as artists also learn to do the same. Now the fifth point will be to define your market, or in other words, to know who your audience is. Do you sell your art locally, regionally, internationally, nationally, or do you sell it mostly online? If you sell your work mostly online, then whatever prices people are pricing their artworks where you're based geographically shouldn't matter, because you don't sell your work in that arena anyway. You're based somewhere else. So even though it's important to know what else is going on around you, even if it doesn't affect you directly, the artists or the prices in your particular market are the ones you should pay the most attention to. At number 6, I'm going to talk about when to lower your prices. Now things change in life, and of course we know sometimes different countries face recessions, sanctions from other countries. Other times they're just bad economic turns for everybody, like we had one in 2020, 2021. If you're making artworks and trying to sell them during such times, it's always wise to try and make your work also reflect the fact that you are in that society and you're not completely out of touch. So if you lower your prices a little, even though practically it's the wise move to make, it's also a nice gesture to the people who buy your work, because at least it shows that you care about what's going on in their lives, if they're losing money or if they're going through whatever everyone else is going through. Another time to consider lowering your prices is if over time you notice a trend whereby most of your buyers bargain or complain about your prices even though they like your work. When this happens, it may be a good idea to lower them maybe by 10-15%. Don't go too low once again, just so they don't feel like all the while before you are scamming them or something like that. So try to keep your prices reasonable even if you're lowering them, just so you don't deviate from your ordinary range. Inversely, at number 7, I'm going to talk about when to increase your prices. If you find yourself consistently selling the majority of your output over an extended period of time, it may be a good indicator that there's a high demand for your product, and therefore it wouldn't hurt if you increase your prices by maybe 10 or 15%. Again, don't go too far away from where you were originally, or to put it more brutally, don't be greedy. But if there's high demand, then chances are people would be willing to pay slightly more for it. So you could increase it just a little to test the waters and see what happens. And who knows? You also have to remember not to become too expensive too fast, because this may alienate your most loyal or your most faithful buyers. Now if your new prices are reasonable and justifiable, then even they wouldn't mind paying the extra 10 or 15%. But if you double your prices overnight or even within 1 year, then it becomes just impossible for anyone to keep up. And before you know it, especially if you continue that trend of increasing your prices rapidly, you may end up pricing yourself out of the market. Then how will you ever get back without losing face? Now sometimes when you increase your prices, some people may genuinely like your work, but they may not be able to afford them at the new prices. So what you can do in such cases is at least give them something to buy. So you could either make prints of your work, or you could make drawings, or you could make smaller paintings, but basically just something affordable that gives people different options, so you're not tied to one particular clientele. Another time to increase your price may be when you win a prestigious award in a noteworthy competition, or when you achieve a major career milestone like land a big museum show or something like that. Then it may be justifiable to increase them at the same rate. Now you may have won lots of awards. I have some certificates over here, but there are many competitions and there's many awards, but only some of them are prestigious, only some of them are noteworthy. So if you land one big feat, then it's okay for you to increase your prices just a little. Now at number 8, I'm going to talk about 3 mistakes you may find yourself making when pricing your work, and you should try your best not to make them. And the first of these mistakes would be confusing or mistaking your family and friends for the real world. The cold, cruel and impersonal art world doesn't care how much your rich relative bought your work for. Remember, when a friend or a family buys your work at an exorbitant price, they're doing it because they personally care for you and they just want to see you do good or trying to encourage you. Most people out there don't really know who you are, or even if they do, they're not that invested in your personal well-being. So even though it may be nice to have the support of the people who care about you, don't mistake the sums they give you for your work for the market price of your work and start pricing them based on that. Remember one of the earlier points in this video, which was to consider what's going on in the market around you and use that to price your work more than what's going on in your more personal circle of people who care more deeply about you, which they should. So I'm not saying it's a bad thing, I'm just saying don't mistake it for the real world. Another thing you should be on the lookout for is sometimes you may give an artwork to be auctioned at a charity fundraiser for, say, saving the elephants or saving the dolphins or some cancer fund or some hurricane aid or something like that. In some of these instances, your work will be sold or auctioned for really high prices. Now you have to remember that when people spend these large amounts of money for charity at fundraisers or benefits, they care more about the cause that they're supporting than what they're getting back for their donation. So even if there wasn't an artwork there, they probably would have spent the money anyway. So don't use how much your artwork sold at a charity fundraiser, then all of a sudden start pricing that way everywhere. So even though auctions and fundraisers may be good for your morale, please don't mistake the prices you sell your artworks there for what you may be able to sell for in the real world. Another thing to be on the lookout for is sometimes artists create, say, portraits of celebrities because either they like the celebrities or because they just want to get some attention by having their work associated with said celebrity. And sometimes an artist is lucky and Kevin Hart buys your painting. So even though you may land such clients or such sales every once in a while, if the ratio of such sudden celebrity clients to your normal clientele is maybe 1 to 300, don't make the mistake of hiking your prices all of a sudden just because Kevin Hart bought a painting of yours. Because if the ratio is 1 to 300, you're only going to get another Kevin Hart type client in another 300 paintings. So just try to keep the prices reasonable even if you decide to raise them. The ninth point in this video will be try and base your prices on what sells. When you walk into a gallery, try to pay closer attention to the artworks that are actually being sold. If you get an idea of what's actually selling and not just what's on the price tags, then it may help you to form a more solid idea of how to price your own work. Other times there's a trick that galleries use, and not just galleries, other businesses also do this sometimes, whereby you could have maybe 15 artworks on display which are all expensive relatively speaking, but you make maybe 4 of the artworks extremely expensive so that when people come to see the exhibition, these high prices may make them think they're getting a bargain for these other 11 artworks. Now when you go into an exhibition innocently to see the price range, try to be on the lookout for prices that are ridiculously high compared to others, especially if they look almost out of place, and so base your prices on the other artworks, on the other 11 if you can spot them. The 10th point will be don't let emotions get in the way. Even though certain artworks you do may have a deep emotional value to you, or even though they may mean more to you because for some reason they're more personal or they remind you of something, these are things that are difficult to explain to someone else. So when you're pricing your work, try to base the prices mostly on physical attributes. When you exhibit your artworks, they will remind people of different things in their own lives, not in your life, because they're not in your life. That's only applicable to you if you are the one buying your own artwork, which wouldn't make sense. So even though an artwork may mean a lot to you, it may surprisingly not mean so much to someone else. So just base them on the physical attributes, then the buyers will decide what means what to them and buy the artworks based on what they feel about them. Another point, number 11, which is probably a repetition of something I've said earlier, is if you take part in a group show, try to submit artworks that are in the same price range as what everyone else is submitting, so you don't stand out for the wrong reason. Let's say you're doing an exhibition with 3 or 4 artists and you're all at similar levels, which would be the best match anyway for a group exhibition. You don't have to match every one of them, but don't deviate too far on the higher or the lower end of the spectrum. Now number 12 will be to try and confidently justify your price. Now if you've taken all the considerations and come up with a price that you can actually defend and that you think is a fair one for your artworks, try and defend it when necessary. Confidence can really help you go home with the money you deserve. So when you can show, even with facts if necessary, that you've been regularly selling for a certain amount that you're pricing a particular artwork at, or if you can talk about similar deals you've done with other curators, other galleries, other dealers, or personally, then this will help especially buyers who are on the fence to decide that it's actually a good idea to buy your artworks for a certain price, and that they're not either being scammed or that they're not making a bad decision. These are things even I am not personally good at, which is probably why I try and focus mostly on technical excellence, because I almost can't talk you into buying anything if you don't really want to buy it. But I know confidence can help you to sell artworks, especially if you can justify your price. Don't just be confidently arrogant for no reason. The prices still have to make sense no matter how confident you are. Now when you're trying to justify your prices to other people, you have to remember there are reasons that could be considered bad reasons. So if someone asks you why your artwork is expensive and you say something like the economy is bad, the obvious rebuttal will be, well, but it's bad for everybody, so why do you assume if it's bad for you it's not bad for me? Or if you say something like, I've increased my prices because so and so also did increase his or her prices, then this will just show you haven't taken the time to come up with personal reasons why your artworks deserve certain prices. So try to be very critical about how you come up with the prices, and when necessary, and this is now number 13, negotiate a lower price here and there on a case-and-case basis, but try not to make lowering your prices radically a habit, because it may give you a bad reputation and may end up tarnishing the integrity of your art or view as the artist. Sometimes it's actually a good idea to not sell. You can decide, I'm not going to accept half the price for my work and I'll just respectfully refuse to sell. It will be up to you to decide when to do this, or even if to do it at all. Remember, it's very risky, because sometimes you may decide to do something like that, then all of a sudden you're completely broke and you start thinking about, do I go back begging to sell this artwork? But these are things you will learn with time, and also sometimes you may decide not to sell and it's a good idea, other times it's a bad idea, but in any case sometimes it's okay to learn from your mistakes. Now the final point I have about how to price your work is ask for expert opinion. So this is maybe gallery owners or curators or artists who are more experienced than you. You could take their opinion on how you should price your work into consideration. You don't have to go with everything they say, but it's always good to get an idea of what other people are saying. And public opinion is also important, and you may want to value the opinion you get from people who see your art physically, say at exhibitions, because when you see an artwork on your phone, it doesn't really do justice to say the scale or the intricate details you've applied to an artwork, and the prices may look exorbitant if you see something just on the phone, but if you see it physically at an exhibition, then it might actually change your mind just by having interacted with it on that extra intimate level. So if you show your work at exhibitions, it's okay to sometimes consider what the public think, and even though you may agree to disagree with other people's opinions on your work or on your prices, it's always good to have something to think about. So those are my 14 tips on how to price your work. I hope they helped you. I hope they gave you a better idea on how to do it, and thank you for sticking to the end of this video. This is longer than any other video I've done so far, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. So until then, thank you so much for watching.